Hello, and welcome to another Tuesday night music show with Mr. Howie Darkstar, our superstar producer and engineer, and Swingin' Jay, Brannan.
Hey, everybody, it's water.
Of course it is.
Sure.
So, I wanted to talk about something that we've discussed a little bit, but I thought it would be cool to do a show on it. Talk about kind of how we structure things at weddings. I just did a video about some dinner things that I've ran into. We talked about a little bit on Howie's show last night briefly. And I know that depending on where you live in the world, kind of depends on how things are structured at your event. So I thought the first thing I do is ask Howie how things typically go when you're doing a wedding with dinner. Dinner's like the first thing you kind of do, right?
Well, first we do the grand entrance. And depending on the couple, most of them will do their first dance, at least here, after dinner, but some of them do that right away, and then we go into dinner.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Jay? Briefly, tell us how it goes.
After cocktail, grand entrance. The trend lately has been just the bride and groom. I probably had 40% of my weddings only be just the bride and groom get introduced.
That's nice.
It's super nice. It's
easy.
Super nice. Because last year the trend was we each get our own song, right? I'm like, yeah, no. Then dinner. I tried years ago. I had for years, 5-6 years straight, every couple would come into the room and do their first dance. But the challenge now is a lot of venues have gone outside and they're not set up where the dance floor is right where dinner is. They might be separated. So I also do usually the first dance after dinner.
The problem that I've always ran into with that is you never know if it's a buffet, for instance, if there's stuff on the dance floor.
Right. I was just going to say that. Then you switch gears quick and it's like, oh, we're doing the first dance after they get that table out of the way.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of unsightly, to have stuff there with Bunsen burners underneath them. Or those little, whatever they are, those little candle things. They put not Bunsen burners, but little,
A little,
campfire.
I can't think of the damn word. Sterno.
Right.
The little sternos.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I never even knew that word, but they were just a little gas-filled candle things. How about cake, Jay? How does cake work for you, Liv?
It's funny. I remember you saying this last night on Howie's show, and I meant to comment on it, and I didn't. But I was shocked. I've only done one wedding in my career where they did the cake. They did grand entrance and the cake, and then they sat down for dinner. And their attitude was, we want to actually feed each other first before the meal. 100% of my weddings do the cake, dinner, toast, special dances, open dance for maybe half an hour, cake cutting. Or dinner, toast, cake cutting, special dances, open dancing.
Okay.
There's really only 2 spots for it.
Sure. We all structure things different. Briefly, I'll tell you how it typically works in my market. It's a grand entrance. They immediately cut the cake when they come into the room. The reason they do this, the reason they do it is because cake is dessert after dinner. So this gives time for catering to get the cake ready to serve for dessert, if that makes any sense to you. If there's a prayer, they do a prayer and then immediately jump into food. And whether it's sit down or buffet, what I ideally like to do is get everybody served, including entree, before we jump into any toasts and speeches. After the toasts and speeches, at that point, catering has the cake cut up and ready to serve. I can announce that it's time for dessert. There's cake over by the bar, or they will bring you cake. Catering might do that sometimes at some of the higher end events. And then, whenever the floor is cleared of anything that might be on there, and the couple's ready, we'll then do a first dance. And we're uninterrupted from the first dance all night long. I don't have to stop and do a cake cutting. I don't have to stop and do anything. It's uninterrupted.
Except like garter bouquet or anniversary.
Yeah, if they do that. I mean, there are other things we do, but it's all dance oriented. I don't have to stop and do something that's different.
Now, I'm curious, in your market, and this happens out here a lot at hotels, not as much the venues I normally work, but at a lot of hotels, their big thing is there is a dessert course. If it's a plated wedding, not a buffet, but if it's plated, they'll actually have a dessert course, and there will also be the cake. So out here, the trend has been to have a dessert bar, like donuts, cookies, whatever, and then a very small cake that the bride and groom cut just to show that they cut their wedding cake.
No, we do that sometimes too, in a way.
Yeah.
What they'll do, and it's probably about 50-50 right now, is they'll have kind of a ceremonial cake, or it's like a fake cake, all tiers except for the top tier.
Yep.
Yes.
If that's the case,
There'll
what
be
they
a sheet
typically
cake
do,
in the back.
yeah, there's a sheet cake in the back. So what I will do instead of doing the cake cutting immediately, if the cake doesn't have to be cut up and ready to serve for dessert, I can then hold it until after the toasts and speeches. And when that's over, I can announce cake cutting, which at that point is usually in the middle of the dance floor where everyone can see it.
Right.
Everybody gets pictures. It's a thing. Then I can announce dessert is served. So that's an alternate way that we do it.
Yeah, I don't, and it's happened a few times this year, and it's kind of shocked me where we've done cake cutting. And then I've thought, okay, the schedule is cake cutting, first dance, father, daughter, mother, son, open. And I go for open dance and no one is there. And I'm looking around like they're all seated.
Eating cake.
And I'm like, oh, and I have to run up to the bride and groom and go, hey, let me do like 10 minutes of just music because it's apparent that they just want to eat the cake. So I'll announce to have you come out and have everyone join you to open the floor. But yeah, that seems like a new trend. But that when you said it last night about the dessert, I'm like, man, even the hotels that serve dessert, I never would say dessert is now being served because the only time that comes up is like a dessert bar. The wedding I did Saturday night, they had a quiet cake cut, which means photographers, bride and groom.
Yeah.
That's it. Then we did father, daughter, mother, son, because when they got introduced, they did their first dance and their toasts, which was great. Knock them all out. And then they went into the two special dances after the cake, and we opened the dance floor. They had a dessert bar that I had to announce after the cake. Now the dessert bar is open. Yeah. But at the same time, please join the bride and groom on the dance floor. So, you know, it gets a little weird. But what they did that was interesting, they then had a second meal. And I know you guys ragging me about the times. You're going to love this. They hit the dance floor at 7:30. At 8:45, they had a fry station open up. So you could get French fries with different toppings. The wedding ended at 10. I mean, it started at 8 o'clock in the morning, as all my weddings do, as you know. Yeah, no, I was kind of like, why are you bothering to feed them? There's like a 2-hour window after dinner. Like,
I'll tell you why. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself here because I wanted to address something else that you had mentioned.
Okay, well, do that first and then...
No. I want to address this because it's right there. Back. It's right in front of us. Why do they feed people right towards the end? It's something here in Wisconsin that I call beer pizza.
Yeah.
And it's just something to kind of absorb the alcohol.
Right.
From anybody who's been drinking. So, you know.
Why would you do that?
It doesn't work. You know, scientifically, it does not do
it. Doesn't.
Beer pizzas happen. By the way, Brian, just to correct you and Howie real quick, because I feel like this is actually an area where I might be an expert in.
Yeah,
beer pizza is something you want to go after at about 2-3 in the morning.
Yeah.
If it's not available, I suggest muffins, scones, and croissants.
Usually it's served here at about 10:30. And then, you know, with the event being over at midnight, so about an hour and a half before the event's over, they'll bring in pizza or bring something out, sometimes some kind of food station. But it's basically the same thing you're talking about. It's a snack.
Right. So by the way,
before we move away from the cake, I have traditionally always, advised the couple, hey, put the cake cutting off as long as possible, because typically once you cut the cake, you're going to lose a third of your people.
Older folks bail.
They're gone. I mean, is that not a thing anymore for you guys?
I've always followed cake with the anniversary dance. If the cake is later,
Right.
because the anniversary dance to me is a dance that the older married couples are going to stick around for. And I've even gone so far, after talking to Brian about this years ago, I've created that older people set where I'll do the anniversary dance and then, like, you know, bust out some Beatles and some 70s and, you know, things that they may be really enticed by, and then work it into newer music so that that group stays longer than expected. By the way, real quick, because I'll forget, I did a ritzy wedding 2 years ago. Ritzy meaning six-figure wedding. And at the end of the night, I was asked by the bride and groom to tell everyone to go outside for the grand exit. I did. They went outside for the grand exit, and as they walked through the line of guests, lined up, single file on each side, a truck pulled up from In-N-Out and, and proceeded to serve all of them In-N-Out burgers.
Yeah, I've seen taco trucks and things like that.
I was just like, and it was a huge In-N-Out truck, and I looked at it like that can't be cheap.
Right.
There's 200 people here. Like, that's going to cost you some bucks. But it was a great ending to the wedding. And if you're going to weddings, let's face it, how was the last wedding? Dude, they had In-N-Out at the end of the night. Like, that's not a bad ending, you know?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to kind of discuss more than anything else would be the dinner thing tonight, because something happened. There's been a glitch in the matrix. And what I mean by that is somebody on one of these wedding.com sites who probably has nothing to do with the wedding business, they just got some kind of journalism degree, so they work for them, wrote something that keeps popping up. I've heard other DJs talking about it. Have you ever had that thing where the couple that you're working with says, we don't want them to clink glasses. Instead, we want them to sing a song with the word love in it, and then we'll kiss. Have you had this?
Yes.
Okay, there's a new one.
I have not.
And it was, and I'll be honest, I haven't had the
clinking of glasses in years, though. It's kind of like
people do it out here, but we don't encourage it.
There's a new one. And I confirmed this with a couple of other folks that said, yeah, we've recently had people say the same thing. Tomorrow night, I'll find out where they got the idea, because tomorrow night I'm supposed to meet the couple for coffee that I had the wedding with last Saturday, just to hang out, just friendly. So I'll find out where they got the idea. But the idea is, instead of singing a song, we don't want clinking of glasses. We want people to stand up and tell a story about us for us to kiss. That's the new one.
I'd like to know where that came from.
It came from somewhere. It's not out of the blue, because it's
but that doesn't even make sense. Like, that's forcing people to do something at a wedding. It's like when DJs said, "Oh, do you do the Survivor game to see who goes to the buffet?" No, I'm not going to punish tables because they're morons.
No, this. I mean, we can editorialize this all we want, but as far as the actual activity goes, but the thing that I'm having a hard time with is general flow. And here's what I'm talking about. The way I've structured my events, which I explained to you how it was, hold all toasts until everyone is served food. Once everyone has food, I'll go to the head table, and I'll say something to whoever's giving the toast. Who's first, maid of honor or best man? Okay. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need to do anything before we do this? Do you need 10 minutes? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've got all of this time people are getting served. I've got all of this time that we're waiting for the people who are giving the toast to be ready to give the toast, for the tables themselves to just engage in dinner conversation and be social.
Right.
If I'm constantly breaking these toasts up, if I'm doing one after salad and then one after the first course and one after the second course, I'm constantly interrupting table conversation. And to me, that's not only disruptive for the guests who are trying to have conversation, but it's disruptive for me. And the reason it's disruptive for me if I have to constantly be on the volume on my mixing board to turn it up, turn it down, worry about a microphone, handing a microphone to somebody, I can't just put on a dinner playlist and go out and be social with the audience.
Right.
Because what I'll do during this time is I'll approach tables without interrupting conversation. If I don't see a lot of conversation or a younger table, I'll walk up and I'll stand there until someone makes eye contact with me, and I'll say hello, introduce myself. Hey, is there anything you guys want to hear tonight? Sometimes I get some really cool gems. Sometimes they'll say Led Zeppelin, and you're like, okay. But what I can do is then go back and put on a Vitamin String Led Zeppelin song, or something like that. I can put on Nirvana, Vitamin Strings, or whatever the case might be, so I'm not screwing up my dancing. It's a cool way for me to get intimate with the crowd, where they know me personally. We're on a first name basis. I'm more approachable later. They like me. They're going to
respond.
Play along.
Yeah.
When I say come out 100%. On the dance floor and things like that. It's 100%. Nice. I can't do that if I'm constantly on this volume control, turning it down for people to sing songs or tell stories. Can't do it.
Don't break up the flow. It's the biggest sin at weddings. Don't break up the flow.
That sounds so strange to me. I've never heard of this. It's like trick or treat. Oh, you got to do a trick for us to kiss. Come on.
Well, the clinking of glasses is a thing, and I understand kind of where the couple's coming from. I mean, I don't.
But it's very self-serving, isn't it, Brian? When the couple says, I know people customarily clink glasses when we kiss, but instead of that, we want to hear about us. Like, talk about me and my husband. Talk about my husband and me. Like,
more editorial, and I appreciate it, but I want to get to the heart of the matter here, and that's that the people want this stuff. So this is what happened to me on Saturday, and I talked about it a little bit on Howie's show.
No, I think it was after.
I said something about it on your show.
I remember that you having this discussion last night. Even I was kind of taken aback, like, wow.
What are you talking about? So
yeah, I never heard of it.
I haven't had the sing a song thing in a long time.
No,
but that was a thing for a while. It kind of went away.
Years ago.
So I announced this because as soon as somebody starts clinking, I ignored it, actually. Whatever they said, I kind of ignored it. I just went into dinner music, and all of a sudden, 30 seconds in, some table starts ding, 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 ding. So Ben, the groom, runs up and says, tell them to stop. They got to tell a story about us. Like, all right. So I get on the mic and I say, okay, listen here. They do not want clinking of glasses. What they'd like you to do is stand up and tell a story about them. So here I am. Okay. I got to have a wireless mic ready. And somebody stands up and says, I want to do it. So I walk over there. And by the way, I'm hopping off of a portable stage all night doing this, by the way.
Right.
And
you got to play Phil Donahue. Am I aging
here's the mic. I'll turn the music down. Yeah, tell your story. And they're like, well, I don't need a mic. I'm a theater major. I project well. Okay, fine. Okay, I got the mic. And then they stand up and I bring the music down. They start talking. Of course, people are talking over them and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a short story. I think one other person does it. It's very brief. And it was over. Okay, well, that was pretty painless. It was a little disruptive, but not terrible. So I go up to the head table to talk to the maid of honor who's giving the first toast. You got to go to the restroom. You got to do anything before we do this. And I overhear the bride saying to someone, I'm really disappointed. I wish more people would have told stories. And I thought,
wow.
Okay.
Now you have to elicit stories from the crowd.
Bride needs 10 minutes. Or I'm sorry, maid of honor before her toast needs 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes to hustle stories.
Bingo.
And give her what she wants. So I go up. By the way, everyone has food in front of them at this point. I turn the music down. I get on the microphone and I say, so if you really want to make Ashley's night, she'd love to hear some stories. Does anyone have a story to tell? And a couple people raise their hands. Fantastic. I look at a guy, he's first. I'm like, okay, by the way, can everybody hear me okay? It's because I'm holding the microphone up to my mouth. Notice what happens when I do this. So this is the microphone they're going to be using. If you can't hear them, it's because they're holding it too far from their mouth. Let's give it up for our first speaker tonight. Hand them the mic. They tell a story. And it isn't very long. It's 2 minutes. So I take the mic back from, does anyone else have a story? Someone else does. So I hand them the mic. They go a little longer. So I'm thinking to myself, all right. And I've got everybody's attention, by the way. I'm not interrupting anybody because they've had their table conversation. All right. We got the one more story. Give them the mic. They tell the story. I take the mic back and say, all right, before the maid of honor gives her toast, I have a story to tell. And then I tell a little story about how I know the groom and how they booked me and all that stuff and made it kind of humorous on the fly. And I said, now with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Sarah, our maid of honor, to give maid of honor speech. Everybody give her a big round of applause.
Nice.
Hand her the mic, open.
Nice.
So what I did was I took the situation and I was able to facilitate it and control it and time it where it wasn't like this out of control thing. Right. It segued into the toast.
Yep.
And it wasn't disruptive for most of dinner. So I was kind of proud of myself for that. And I did it by accident. I just by overhearing her and thinking to myself, what can I do to make her day better?
On your feet. I totally agree.
So I just did a gig tip about that. I talked about that in the Tuesday DJ gig tips that I have on my channel.
So you actually give them the mic?
Yeah. And I'll stand right there. Like I'm there. Like I'm talking. I'm like Jay said, I'm kind of Phil Donahue. I hand him the mic and I take it back.
Well, because this happened to me years ago where they warned me about a certain person. Look, he's going to be pretty drunk and ramble. So try to keep. So I held the mic like Phil Donahue.
And you can do that too.
When he started going too long, I just gave him a pat on the back and then thank you. I pulled the mic back. Thank you. And then I moved on.
I want to make it crystal clear to anybody watching this. None of these sing a song, tell a story ideas are anything I'd recommend a client do. I would never suggest this to a client. But if a client insists on it, you got to have some control over the situation.
Right.
Just so things don't get out of hand and get stupid.
No.
For everyone's sake, not just for the client, but for all the guests trying to have table conversations.
Honestly,
keep a general flow going.
I've never heard of it. I can't wait to find out where this came from.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
I'm going to find out. I'm going to talk to. Well, I don't know if she's coming, but I know he's coming, and I'm going to find out where she got this idea. In fact, he was just texting me before we went on air, just to make sure we're cool for tomorrow. So
that's awesome.
I'm going to find out.
Now, I got 3 quick points. One, the majority of my events over the years have been driven by photos saying, toast after dinner, we want to make sure the plates are cleared because we don't want plates on the table. For photos of, like when we take your photo, we turn and take a photo of your parents. We don't want like a half-eaten plate of food. So that's 1 point.
Okay.
2 point, and I mean this with nothing but love.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
Oh, here we go. I'm going to get hit hard.
Oh, it's...
Jesus. Go ahead, Jay.
I'm not feeling the whole can you hear me but if the mic's here thing. It's so passive aggressive. Like you're really putting the people on the spot. But
why? How am I putting anyone on the spot?
No. I didn't finish. I understand why you're doing it. I understand the benefit of it. But this argues exactly what I came up with almost 2 years ago in March, where I don't let them touch a mic anymore. Like that's not an option. Like, here's the mic on a stand.
I like your idea with the mic stand.
And in parentheses, I say this to every one of my clients before the wedding. We need to have a clear understanding and agreement on something. What's that? You're going to give me a list of people that can speak at your wedding. And that's it. And when I say that's it, you need to realize my microphone is my microphone. You've hired me. This is my equipment. This is not something to be willy-nilly around. The other night, last Thursday, one of the bridesmaids, the mother of the bride said, before the ceremony, hey, Sarah, the bridesmaid, is a great singer. So at some point, you need to play Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline. She's going to sing. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have a singing mic. You don't? I said, I have a speaking mic. I didn't bring the karaoke mics with me. So they're really not dialed in for singing. She's like, oh, wow. I didn't know that. I go, I wish I'd known, but the bride never mentioned it, which means the bride's not on board. because the bride would have mentioned it. So my logic has been for years, anyone that's not on the list to speak shouldn't speak.
I specifically ask every client who's going to use the microphone.
And I tell
every week.
Right, so do I. And I tell them no one else is going to speak. Meaning, when your drunk Uncle Gary says, "Hey, dude, come here, give me that mic." No, you're not getting the mic. It's my mic.
I understand that in theory, that's brilliant.
But you can make it work in practice.
But what I can tell you is, in practice, I get blindsided with this stuff. I didn't know about Tell a Story until about 2 minutes before dinner.
No, that's one of those areas that even I would have been like, okay, we've had this talk. How did this come out of nowhere?
What am I going to do? Tell this guy
exactly.
No?
I feel for you on that one, Brian. I would have handled it the same way. And I would have stood right next to him and I would have said to the bride and groom, so you're willing to let anyone in this room tell a story? Like that drunk dude with the ponytail in the corner that's dating your cousin's girlfriend's sister's ex-wife who you don't even want here?
I know.
Like he can speak, right?
I understand that there are people at some events where you want to keep them at bay. And when those, I know, I've done them.
Former rehab
and I've even
guys.
I've even had clients say, look, my mom's insane.
Yeah. My brother's just
listen
gotten out
to
of
nothing
rehab.
She says.
Right.
Ignore
100%.
that lady. She's nuts.
Yep. 100%.
But then there are weddings like I had on Saturday where it's the Brady Bunch. Everybody is a square there. I mean, they're just nice people.
Sure.
And
those are joyous. They really
and it was a small, intimate wedding. So everybody there, they knew everyone.
Right.
They were people.
I totally get that.
The only weirdo there that, was, probably a family member, but they left early and it wasn't an issue. But at any rate, this is not stuff that I recommend anyone do. This is not stuff that I suggest that your clients do. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's relatively disruptive. But if it's in front of you and it's a trend because somebody on
you have to handle it.
Somethingorthewedding.com suggested it was a great idea.
Right.
Then you might have to deal with it. And if you do, that's how I have found that it's probably going to be the least disruptive.
And everything you have said, I'm 100% on board with. As a side note, for those of you watching this who might run into this situation where it's more of a lack of story, but more of a, I want to give a toast. A quick thing that as Howie and Brian will 100% agree with me, as an older DJ that's done this for a while, atypically I get the early arrival guest who says, "Hey, how's it going?" "Good, man. How are you?" "Good." "Hell, wow, this is some good looking gear, man. I'm looking so forward to tonight." "Yeah, the groom and I are really close." "Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, this is 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock wedding, so I got no, bone of contention at this point." And then in a couple hours, I get the "Hey, man, if there's toast, I really want to say something. The groom and I are best friends.
Hold on just a second.
Since kindergarten."
Howie, I need you to give me a marker because I remembered what I was going to reply to in one of Jay's monologues. So go ahead, Jay.
Okay, real quick. And I always say, in my head, I go, "Wow, you guys have known each other since kindergarten. You're best friends. That's funny. You're not in the wedding party." So my point is, as a new DJ, use some psychology. When someone is the closest person in the world to the bride or groom, but they're not in the wedding party, they're not involved in the wedding, they're not anything other than a guest, that's a red flag for me personally. So when I go to a groom or a bride at a wedding and I go, "Hey, by the way, the dude in the blue suit earlier today mentioned that he wanted to speak later. I told him we didn't have time." And they 100% look at me and go, "Oh my God, don't let him speak." I'm like, exactly. So there's a reason why you tell your clients the only people that get the mic are the ones that you tell me.
Oh, I agree.
Others don't speak. But when Brian is faced with any table can tell a story, to me, that's dynamite just waiting to blow up.
It was fine.
It did work.
It went fine.
There's your marker.
Thank you. Thank you. I needed the marker because I was going to reply to something he said and then it turned into something else. So I want to address my passive aggressive microphone speech that Jay doesn't like.
Do you agree though?
I will say this. I will simply say this.
You
Okay?
know it is.
I will simply
I think it's
say
a great
this.
speech, but it's passive aggressive.
Well, how can I say this as tactfully as possible?
You
I guess
ignorant
just come right out and say
slut.
it. It's in the delivery. Not everyone's going to be able to pull
true.
this off.
No,
Right.
Now, the way I talk on the microphone is different than the way you talk on the microphone or how he talks on the microphone or anybody watching. This is, and I hate to use this word, but this is masterclass. You can't just do it. You have to know how to do it. You have to do it in a way where it's funny and it's informative.
It's on the delivery.
The trade-off for not doing it and pulling it off is that everyone does this shit. No one can hear you.
Yep.
And they look at you like you're an asshole because you're not turning the mic up. So if I do this funny bit, and it's a bit that I do. It's a comedy bit.
I think I saw George Carlin do this exact bit once.
Yeah, I'm sure he did because he was passing the mic around to the audience. He encourages the audience to say things. He always does that. He loves hecklers.
I hit Brian right where he lives.
He loves hecklers.
No, Brian makes a good point. It's in the delivery. I think
of course
one of the three of us could pull it off.
Oh, I guarantee we could. And I've done it. I've had to say to people,
I do it funny.
Yeah.
You know,
I do it in a funny way. I say things on the microphone that I know most people couldn't get away with.
Right.
But it's the relationship I have with the audience.
Exactly.
I get this relationship by going to the tables and saying hi to people. And dude, I'm not your...
You build a foundation.
I'm not a cookie
so when
cutter.
you do it...
I'm not a cookie cutter MC. I've never have been.
Well, you took all those courses, so I know that you're in a different realm.
I took no courses.
No. I heard that you took a lot of those, like they were $2-3 a course, and you took those things.
Never.
Really? Oh wow.
Never.
Wow.
I try things. And
Brian's idea, it worked for me when, the father of the bride asked. He was dying, and they all knew that this was going to be his last hurrah type thing. And he said,
God,
they had already done the toast, and they said, hey, my dad would like to say something. Absolutely. He was, so we set him up and he started dropping the mic, and I just gently went up behind him and I moved his elbow up so the mic was up, and then you could hear. Then I backed away and went back to the booth. And when he dropped the mic again, the audience was on my side, and then they started, hold the mic up.
Right.
And
that's the point. It's not that anyone who has this microphone is going to listen to you. It's that everyone else who doesn't have the microphone heard you.
They don't.
And will police it for you.
Right.
I tell everyone, here's the deal. Exactly. The mic is, here's how it works. The mic is on, and proof will be that I will speak before I hand it to you. I can't tell you how pissed, and I've said this at several events, where someone goes, hey, everybody, is this thing on?
No.
And I've gone up afterwards and I've said right to their face, hey, by the way, in the future, my mic's only worth $800, but in the future, if you get a really expensive mic, tapping a mic to see if it's on, it'd be like me punching you in the ear to see if you can hear me. And they look at you like, oh. Dude, don't, that's why having a mic stand as a mandatory thing. The other night, bridesmaid, a maid of honor, best man come up with a drink and a phone. And I'm like, no problem. Let me get the height perfect. Here you go. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, I got my drink, my phone. Oh, I love this. Get away from handing mics to non-professionals. They think they're a freaking belt buckle.
I've tried it, Jay.
Jay, do you think that was a little passive aggressive or aggressive when you say
I get on the mic early in the night and I say, I know I'm better than all of you. I know Brian S. Red and Howie Darkstar. Do you? And if my wife is there, she'll go, I know Howie and Brian, and that's it.
Oh, she says, I know Howie Darkstar.
But no, Howie Darkstar. Yeah, she would fill the full name.
She might just use my first name, but you would definitely be Howie Darkstar.
I don't think she'd call you BSR. No,
the multitude of other Howies we all know.
Yeah, no, not to confuse him with Mandel, because I'm friends with him too.
Yeah, it's like him and the guy on Happy Days, and that's it. Who else do we have?
By the way, am I the only one that's still concerned about where Richie's older brother Chuck went? I mean, that to this day.
Who cares?
They killed him off. Yeah.
No, I think there's a level of instruction that we as DJs can give at a wedding. And if you tell the story the way I know you tell it, Brian, and I've never heard it, but I know your talent and your level of professionalism is such that they're leaving there going to the next wedding and they're remembering what you said because they're watching a toaster hold it like a belt buckle.
Yeah.
And just be like, remember that wedding we went to Alan and Jeannie? And like, it was amazing. Like, oh my God, I wish this DJ actually, yeah, let's find out who that DJ was. Cause my daughter's getting married. Like you're getting yourself future employment because you're making the night more comfortable for everyone.
I actually have a video of Brian doing that bit down at Beret in Atlantic City at Expo, where you did the bit with, hey, can everybody hear me? Good.
That's because I'm holding the mic up to my mouth.
Going up to my mouth, and everybody laughed.
But the thing is,
delivered it. It was your delivery.
It's not only delivery, but I had won the audience over already. And in that case, it was easy. Everybody knew me. At a wedding, it's a little harder. They don't know me. But I come in there, I've got the microphone, and they're looking at me like, okay, what's this going to be all about? And I start talking, and my kind of cadence and diction when I'm on the microphone at most any event is very casual. And it's conversational. I don't do from the diaphragm, hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, at this time. If I did that, I couldn't do it.
A lot of people
do. If I get on there and I'm like,
people do.
Hey, no, and that's fine. I'm not hating on them. I'm just telling you, this is why I can pull it off and how I pulled it off successfully. I won the crowd over.
Right.
And I'm conversational with them.
Well,
and
I mean,
it goes back to the stand-up comedy thing. Not that I'm trying to be funny, but
it's a timing.
It's different than being a boxing announcer.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. Well, I've told you, and you've kind of been on the fence, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, that's cheesy." But I've had weddings where I've had 200-300 people in a room, and I can't get their attention. And it's right after the introduction. I've said to the bride and groom, and I've got video on YouTube about it. You guys trust me? Oh yeah, 100%. Great. Just do whatever I say. Okay. Now they're excited. And I get on the mic and I go, ladies and gentlemen, in a moment I'm going to bring up the wedding party to give their speeches. But before I do, I was just informed that 100 years ago today on this very spot, a young couple was wed. This couple,
this guy's full of shit, but we like him.
It's totally full of shit, but it's all the pausing. It's this young couple spent the rest of their lives deeply in love, successful and happy. Pause. And according to their DJ, right before the maid of honor's toast, they kissed while everyone yelled, "I love you." And I look over at the family who's like half laughing, half in tears. And I purposely stop and I go, so to continue this beautiful tradition from 100 years ago today, on the count of 3, if the bride and groom would please kiss while all of you yell, "I love you." 1, 2, 3. Boom. They all scream, "I love you." The bride and groom kiss. For the rest of the evening, anytime I get on the microphone, the room goes silent.
Good.
Because their attitude is, and I stole this from Scott Favor. Scott Favor, at some point years and years and years ago, had made a statement on a microphone at a wedding where the comment was, "I want you to know, at any point tonight where I speak on this microphone, I promise you it will only be to make the bride and groom happier." Which meant, as a group,
I have a really hard time delivering that one.
You have to shut up. No, I can't do it. But I'm saying, we all have our way of doing this.
Yeah, we do.
And that's the beauty of it.
Mine's original.
The goal is, well, it is. The goal is, you want the group to understand that when you're on the mic, they need to listen because it benefits the bride and groom. Now, if you want to teach like driver's ed for microphones, I totally understand.
I can't.
No, I totally
you can't teach
understand
this stuff. It's like teaching somebody how to make a hit record. You either got hits in you or you don't.
Well, that's the
play
thing, though.
guitar.
But you're giving them a little push. You're giving them that little like, hey, by the way, it's not a belt buckle.
Yeah,
I know it seems like a laser pointer, but it's best served.
And I'm not on
right
the mic
here.
a lot, but when I'm on the mic, I say funny stuff.
I'm just more scared for me presenting to a group.
I'm
going
not.
like, hey, I've got a microphone right here, right here.
I learned how to get people's attention early on when I was a kid doing this, and I had these really good frontmen from bands who were kind of guiding me along, and they were doing the things that they did.
What's your opening statement on the microphone? Let's go to the ground level.
Well, the
first time you get on the microphone at a wedding with a room full of people before you have to introduce or start anything, what's your opening line?
Okay, well, the opening line isn't really as important as the volume, because what I'm doing is, first of all, I'm using microphone compression, so I don't have to scream into the microphone.
This is like Howard Stern's dad suddenly going, the bit I'm talking about?
I don't know the bit, but I know Howard Stern does the same thing. He's got a lot of microphone compression on his show, so he doesn't have to speak loudly. He can talk normally, and you're like, wow, it's like, the voice from God. It's very loud.
Right.
Well, I use microphone compression. Now, I'm using, it doesn't matter what speakers I'm using, but the volume has been low all night. And the mid-range has been not harsh at all, so it's not occupying that frequency in the room, so everyone's been able to have conversation. When I come on, the mic is hot. And I say, hey, how's it going? And they're startled almost. And they look at me. How was the food? Right on. Hey, you guys ready to get the party started? I mean, it's like that. Or, sometimes I won't go there with the food. Sometimes it's always off the hat. Sometimes I'll say, I'm Brian, I'm your DJ tonight. How was the food? Things like that. And they listen because it's loud, not because I'm enthusiastic or I'm relying on the technology at this point, but it works. And
I use two techniques. The one that Brian uses, because I do use the compression, but I will also use the lighting. Just like in a movie theater, when the lights go down, it's like, oh, the movies are going to start.
Something changed.
Well,
what's going on?
I have static up lights. I'll start a chase, and then I'll just say, good evening. Did you enjoy your food? Whatever.
But what about
I will do that, and I can do that just like, real quick. And, then I got their attention visually and with my voice.
But I'm saying more like if you've gone from cocktail to now dinner. Well, so the groups come in, you're going to do grand entrance.
Well,
it's what's your opening? And I only ask this because Dave Chenair, 6 years ago, rented gear from me, and we had a talk, and he said to me, how do you... I said, you've taken... Right. But you know what, Brian, honest to God,
do it.
Up until then, no one ever applauded. But now I did it Saturday night. I was like, family and friends, I want to welcome you to the Crossings for Adam and Haley's wedding reception. They went nuts. And I'm like, wow, this works. So I don't see a reason to change that.
Don't. Do you and do you well. The original question was, how do you get everybody's attention? But you said to kick off a first dance, we're talking about a grand entrance.
Right.
Then I'll get on a microphone and I'll say something like, whatever. Hey, how's it going? You guys hungry? All right. Well, before we eat, we got to bring the wedding party in. So are you ready for your wedding party?
And you do it like that? Or do you do it with more...
Shut up and let me talk.
Okay. Wow.
God damn, Jay. Shit. Let me get a word out.
Yeah.
No, I'll say it like that. I'll intentionally say it like that. Like sometimes I even try to stumble it. Like, you guys ready for the wedding party? And then, you ready for your wedding party? And they'll, well, let's try that again. Are you ready for your wedding party? Then they clap, and then you bring them in. So That's one opener, but it always depends on what I'm doing. I mean, it's never the same. I don't have a script. So whatever feels right, I do. And I try new things sometimes.
But we all want the same thing, Brian. We want the room to understand that we're the focus of attention when we're speaking because we're doing something for the bride and groom.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to get to is what's the
no one
best,
argued that.
No, I'm saying, but what's the best opening line? Because if I get 100 DJs, I might get 100 different opening lines, like yours. Hey, you guys good? Like, you hungry? Like, what's up?
That's kind of like saying, what's the best joke as a comedian?
An opening line.
No, I don't think it is. What's the best joke?
I think it's to the center of the dance floor.
How do you open up?
And boom, I tap, and boom, the spotlights come right on me, and they're like, people will follow lights. They just do.
Absolutely will.
And then you can talk calmly like Brian does. Hi, family and friends. Welcome to Jack and Jill's reception. And I don't have to, I haven't done that, crescendo voice.
You don't have to.
They're listening because the spotlight is on me. And then when I'm done talking, boom, spotlight's off of me, and I'm off to the side out of the picture. And then I'm doing the introductions, and then the lights go on to the people that are being introduced.
As artists, we all do things a little different. I mean, otherwise it would be very boring.
Yeah.
We all have a different thing. But
I
for
give
me,
cues.
what I've kept in mind are a couple of things, and that is one of the big ones is, and I say it all the time, it's under promise, over deliver. So if I come on like this weird, shy, timid, I have never DJed a wedding before kind of thing, and then I do something kind of over the top afterwards to get their attention, and it could be just cranking up the song and pressing play, like because the volume wasn't quite there or whatever, and I'm 6 decibels higher than I was when I was speaking with the music. It's a lot of things. But it's all art, it really is all art. If it's scripted, it's boring, I think. I mean, if you say the same thing all the time, that's fine too. You found something that works, stick with it. But I'm always changing it. I never say the same thing over and over. I just don't do it, No. But I'm that comfortable as an MC. Not everybody's there, and I get that, and that's fine.
Yeah, but that's a cop out a little bit, because that's
how is that a cop out?
Because you're saying what I do is inferior to what you do because you're like winging it as you go.
What I mean by that, and I don't mean to insult you.
That's what you're saying.
I don't mean to insult you. What I mean is, if I were to do the same thing over and over again, personally, it would be boring.
Right.
Because I know how I do it. I know how it works. If I get
I do as well.
If I get really comfortable with rhetoric speech, it doesn't flow anymore. It doesn't sound sincere anymore. And it's just like, I don't know, it's like playing music for a crowd. I don't believe that you should play the same set every night, because every crowd's a little different. Well, and when you have a crowd in front of you, they're going to respond differently to how you.
Let me ask you this: Do you get a round of applause when you start speaking?
Get a round of applause when you stop speaking, I think. So.
When you first start speaking on the mic, do you find the audience is on board with you, or do you find that they stop and then listen to you? Because I would much rather
I don't get applause
on board for a grand entrance. I'm just saying, when I went from the old days of like, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you, and blah, 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 and they just kind of stared at me, I would much rather have them be excited when the bride and groom are about to enter. By the way, that's the only line I have of the night. The only pat line I have is, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all to Temecula Valley Country Club for Brian and Blanca's wedding reception. And when they go nuts, now I've got the crowd. Yeah. And then it's my crowd to lose, meaning the rest of the night, everything I say has to somehow focus on them understanding I'm here with the bride and groom.
Sure.
There are no other lines. So
there's nothing wrong
having
with
a good introduction to me is just a tool in the tool bag of how do I keep a crowd started? Because I want them excited when the bride and groom come in. I don't want them listening like, what's up? Like, oh, what's going on? Like, I don't want that. I want them a little revved up, like, here they come. That's all.
Sure. And I don't know, here it just seems like They're just happy to eat. They really are.
Right, exactly.
It's been a
Well,
long day.
but Brian, this is the benefit of having this show is learning that in different marketplaces, there's something I can learn from everybody who does and things that I do, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So that I can then take that to my events and say, well, you know what? I like that thing about telling the stories that Brian did. Let me see if I can incorporate that somehow between this and this, and it makes something better. Because all we want is our clients to be happy, so that we get more events, and then we make more money.
I'm going to try what you said, Jay. I'm going to try it once and see how it goes. But typically, I just want them to listen, and I give them the visual cue, and then I want the applause to be for the guests coming in. And
I do too.
Scott's a great guy. I love Scott Faber, but Scott Faber's a party clown. And he needs everyone to look at him. And
I don't want the attention.
I'm just not that guy.
Right. And I totally get that. But Dave Chenair, who's on this channel, as are we, did this whole thing. And he said, this is one of the things that I picked up that really worked for me. Try it.
Yeah.
And I went out the next day and tried it at a wedding. And it was like, holy shit. Like normally these people just stare at me. They don't do anything. Now they're all applauding. But they're not applauding for me. They're applauding because I said, welcome to this bride and groom's wedding reception. And they went nuts. Well, and I was like, wow, this is great. Like now I can feed off this and keep the energy level high, bring them in. Everyone's happy. You know, the story thing I tell is based on me being on boats going under the Coronado Bay Bridge. And that's a long story.
No, that's a good one. But I like that.
It comes down to, you have to be you on the microphone, but you also have to figure out every crowd's a little bit different and there's a lot of similarities, but what can you do? What can you have in your bag of tricks, which is what I like to call it.
Yeah.
What can you have in your bag of tricks that you can call upon and say, I've seen this crowd before. I know what to say.
And maybe
because if you come out on the dance floor and go like, hey everyone, how's it going? What's up? You guys hungry? That might work great. But for me personally,
Jay, hold on a second. I think the point is that there's probably some great things like that you can tell anyone to do, and anyone can do it, and anyone can pull it off. But that's where I'm kind of failing here, because I don't have anything that I can just give anybody that anyone can pull off.
Right.
So that's my fail. I can't offer that to anyone.
I don't think it's a fail, Brian. I think it's a...
No, it is, because I don't have that trick to show anybody. You either can or you can't. It's
right, and that I understand. It's a timing thing. It's an established thing. It's an experience thing.
I don't have this surefire thing you can do. I mean, I have other things that I feel like you can do that work well, but when it comes to, I don't do a lot of videos on emceeing because I don't know how to teach it. I mean, it's you either can or you can't. It's you got to.
No, I totally agree. Well, and you and I, and Howie too, we're in kind of rarefied earth. Like, I did a thing last week for 600 people online in Zoom room doing a, walkthrough on gear. That's just common for me. That's not a challenge. Doing a presentation,
you're really good at it. Yeah,
it's not a challenge. It's just, I'm very good at in the moment. Like,
you riff well.
Hey, can you come over here and just speak about this? Sure. And I often, but I still know that there's more I need to learn. There's things I could be better at.
Yeah, always.
And the glory in the room, when I say better at, I put a comma because I don't want to end a sentence in a preposition.
Jay, you're supposed to say
because Lori's here, right?
Things you get gooder at. I want to be gooder.
I would like to be more better, Lori, is
better.
What I'm trying to...
More better, gooder.
Yes. Well, when Brian and me went to the store, me went to the store or I went to the store? Okay, I just want to be clear on that. She's laughing off camera, I guarantee.
Me and Jay go. Me and Jay do all kinds of stuff together.
Yeah, when I go to the bar, that's all you need to hear.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Maybe you got something out of this. Maybe you didn't.
If you have other ways to say anything we did, please put it in the comments. I love reading the comments from our shows and picking up knowledge, because I can always learn from everyone that watches us.
So next week, let's do this.
Yep.
Let's hustle that suggestion early on.
Okay.
I've been doing that in my videos. like within the first 30 seconds, introduce the subject and say, what do you think? Let us know in the comment section, and then go on. Because when you do at the end of the video, a lot of people didn't make it that far. So
Okay. No, that's fair.
At the beginning, we'll get more.
No,
As
totally.
an experiment, let's just try it.
No,
We'll
I
count
totally
the
want to do
comments
it.
from
By the way,
this
where
video.
are you on Vimeo? Where are you putting your videos? You're on Vimeo or?
Yeah,
Jim,
something like
where's
that.
your channel?
I don't know.
Is it on Twitch?
There's a couple out there. Something.
Oh, you're on this format. Okay, I got to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for watching.